Hey everyone, and welcome to the Cat B and Andy B Inspired Connections podcast. We are coming to you transatlantic from the UK and the US, as always. In this podcast, we explore how inspired connections have impacted people's lives positively and demonstrate how you too can experience those inspired connections in your life as well. Without further ado, let me introduce my beautiful co host, Cat B, and our very special guest today, Allison B. So now you have B, what's
I'm
B3?
free.
There we go. Time, whatever that is, that's what you have today. So welcome to the show, everybody.
Amazing, amazing. Great to see you guys. Well, Alison, thank you so much for joining us. You've got the most incredible story because yours is really a story of perseverance and resilience through everything. Share with everybody what's brought you here and how we met and some of the inspired connections that have happened to you since your journey began.
Okay, well, Kat, you've been a big part of it. My son, I feel like he chose you to be a spokesperson for him. I've always loved to meditate and yoga and a lot of spiritual things, but I was not open to mediumship. I think because of my religious background as a kid and some things that I was taught with that. And then just because I didn't need it, I felt really confident with myself and with God. And so I just didn't feel a need for that. And when my son transitioned to spirit in March of 2022, I do feel that spirit and my son brought a lot of books and YouTubes into my life, one of which was Helping Parents Heal. And I would listen to the videos and go to sleep to the videos. And I loved all the different Helping Parents Heal videos. And I went on the website and I emailed Elizabeth, the founder, that I wanted to join. She said I had to be on Facebook, and I had no social media. And I know that was because my son knows I am such a skeptic. And so I had no social media. So all that Helping Parents Heal had gotten from me was my email address, and they knew that I had a child in spirit. She said, I'll make an exception for you. I'll give you a link one time to a meeting, and if you like it, you have to join Facebook to get the links to all of our different events. I was getting neurofeedback for my very, very traumatized brain. And I zoomed in late in the car, and it was Kat. And I think you had 100 parents on there, and you had time to get to 5 or 6. And I'm driving, and you said, Allison B from Florida, unmute and turn your camera on. It wasn't even me texting in the chat. My son had you call me out and pick me, and you gave me evidential evidence, a lot of details, one of which spirit had the mother before me. You said to her, your child is so proud of you, you're so aware of their presence, you're doing so well. And then when you came to me, you had a lot of detailed evidence, but one of the things you said was, I don't usually do this in the gallery readings. I'm going to break a rule. Let's just say your son says you don't want to be here anymore. And I had been wanting to die for a year and 1 month. I was doing so much therapy and wonderful things, but I just didn't want to be here. You said Mick prompted you that you just had to say that. And it was impactful because the mother before was the opposite. And she said, yeah, yeah, yeah. And what I love about your readings, and I haven't had a lot of readings, I don't go to a lot of Helping Parents Heal meetings, and I don't seek out the mediums. Mick has had you literally pop up exactly when I needed you 3 or 4 times. And you've always given evidence that I cannot deny. There is no way you could know it. And then you give me this message that my child is okay. My son is okay. He's doing great. And he's right here. And then Mick always has you give me a to do, a homework. Do this to get well and be well. And that first one was, Mom, you don't have to go and be, you don't have to leave where you are and come be where I am. You just have to keep doing your work, and we will have a better relationship than ever. And I want you to listen to this YouTube meditation every morning, and every morning I tell, and it's somebody that I've known of for many, many years, and I thought, oh, it's so cheesy. Every morning I put it on and I tell my dog, let's see what Mick has to say. I listen to it every morning.
Oh, that's amazing. Just for the viewers, Alison, because I know that you're saying there's been brilliant evidence, but give a piece of evidence that they would sort of illustrate to them what evidential facts look like to you that convinced you that it was real. Because some people will be watching and they'll be thinking, hmm, not sure.
Well, there's so much. All 4 times that you've spoken to him, and then through Suzanne Giesman's videos, I've learned how to get evidence for myself. I just have so much. I mean, I don't know if you want to skip to the last couple of times we talked. That's what's freshest in my mind. I have to really think back to the first time we talked. I think you said you saw him in a flight suit, and that you saw the stripes and the joy of flying, and that was really important to him. You said that I was doing a home renovation. I did find my son in my home. No physical life at that point in the house was burnt up, and it's hard for me to go back that far, but it's hard for me to remember everything you said, but there was just so much evidence. And I have 2 homes, and you knew that I was doing a landscape job. But I said no, because I think my brain was like, no, I don't want to talk about the landscape job. I want to talk about, is my son okay, and us. And I was doing an enormous landscape job. You said I was doing it because of scorched earth. This is the window I'm in front of. It's facing south in Florida, and the earth was so hard, we had to get large machinery equipment to dig out the scorched earth. But I said, no, 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 because I think subconsciously I didn't want to talk about. I couldn't believe you were giving me so much evidence. I wish I could remember more from that first time.
I do, Alison, because I read.
It was a lot. Knowing that I wanted to die, knowing that I was doing landscaping. You said I was going to have to renovate this house at the other house, which was a nightmare. And you said so much. The evidence of the last couple of talks is what's in my mind. So I think you talked to my son twice. Now, mind you, I rarely go on. You pop up when I'm wanting to not live anymore or something's happening. And by the way, I've wanted to live. I've embraced life ever since that talk. But I trusted you so implicitly because of the evidence that you had given. And I wish I could remember more. But so I went to your retreat not long ago. And
That Michael came through. I don't know if this is him as well.
he sure did. And he said, you've lost the key to the back door. You've lost the key to the back door.
House. You've lost the key to the beach house, I think he said. Is that what he said?
No, he said, you lost the key to the back door. And I had I had lost my son, everything in that home. So I had never mentioned to anyone that we also didn't have the key to the back door. Apparently, I did not put it on my key ring. I figured it was in a junk drawer and everything in the house was destroyed. But we had lost so much in that fire, including my son. I never mentioned that even to my husband. It never came out of my mouth. It was true. I did not have a key to the back door of this house at the beach. And then he said, it's in the house with those doors. And you pointed to French doors. So I am now in a different home at this time. And we have 10 sets of French doors in this house.
Wow.
And so as soon as I got home, I got guided to a junk drawer and a bunch of keys. And he said, it's this key. And I thought, it's not. And I'm going to be devastated. And he talks to me. He said, it is, and you will not be disappointed. And so I went over to the other house. It was the key. And I talk to him now all the time. And I was doing that before helping parents heal, but I thought I was crazy. I even saw him. But so he knows that I like cute keys like this. So this is my style. He said, I want to go and pick keys. And so I took him to where I go on the beach. and he picked an eagle and an American flag. Not my style, but my son was a veteran. He was a vet. I said, okay. And then he goes, then I'd also like a Florida one. We're Florida natives, which is very rare. Okay. I want a guitar. He played the guitar, and we love guitar music, rock and roll. And I said, Mick, do we really need 3 keys? And he says, yes, I need 3 keys. So I get in the car. I have CarPlay hooked up to my happy playlist because listening to the radio is too emotional for me. And CarPlay malfunctions and Freebird is blasting. Okay. And Freebird, and my son's laughing. And he goes, it's a Florida band, Mom. They're from Florida. And they have a ridiculously long guitar solo at the end. It's like 4 minutes long. So they don't usually play it on the radio. And listen to the lyrics, Mom. Listen to the lyrics. You know, I have so many places to go. Don't take it so hard. It's not your fault. I'm free as a bird. And that was July 3rd. And July 4th, I walked over to the beach and Freebird's blasting. And recently, I was sharing, I don't share this with a lot of my family members, but I have one special aunt and I shared it with her. She goes, oh, now I know why they were blasting Freebird on repeat in my MRI. I asked them to please turn it off. Please give me something peaceful. And they said they could not. And that's my husband's business is radiology. And never do they blast something like Freebird on repeat. That's all she heard the whole time she was in the MRI. So, and there's probably more to that. There's probably more to the keys, honestly, because when you give me readings, it unfolds. Like the landscape was significant because my son wanted me to help the landscaper. And that unfolded with him, me to give messages to the landscaper. And these stories just could go on and on. But
Can I share with you what happened to me after his reading? Because the reading at the retreat would maybe have been about 10-15 minutes long, and there was lots of details in there about the house, the building. But when he was talking about your keys, he said, Kat, I give you the beach house keys. And I'm going to direct Mum to where they are. That's the one thing that I recall, Alison. And when I came home, something really interesting happened. My husband had booked to see a comedian in a location in London that we hadn't been to in a long, long time. And the day before you posted that you had found the keys, we were at this theatre. Now, I'd just arrived home. I was very jet lagged, very tired. And the last thing I really wanted to do was go out to see a comedian. I didn't know that I was going to make it through the show because I was so tired, having had a little bit of trouble sleeping on the retreat. And we go to this theatre in in an area that we haven't frequented for maybe 15, 20 years. And on the wall in this theatre, immediately as I walk through the door, is your son's first name and your surname, which
I saw that on your post.
Which I won't share with anyone, but you are the only person I have ever met with that surname. It's a very unusual surname and not something that I've ever seen before. Now, at the time that I'm tired, I don't notice that it says Michael. I just noticed your surname. And so I think this man looks very handsome, not unlike your son. He didn't look identical to him, but he had the look of him. And so I took a photo thinking, wow, I'll have to send that to Alison. That must be for her as confirmation of a sign. And I forgot about it. And I didn't send it to you. And then you posted on social media on one of my pages in Helping Parents Heal about finding these beach house keys. At which point I went, oh, wow. Like, oh my gosh, I've got to send you this photograph. And you went, oh, it's his full name. And I was like, what? Then I looked at the picture and I was like, oh my word. But it got even better. A lady then called Barbara, whose husband is also Michael in spirit. And I taught her to connect with her husband. And so she was having conversations with him. And she said she wasn't on my Facebook feed. She hadn't seen your social media post. She hadn't, heard any feedback about the retreat or anything like that. And she said, my husband Michael is here, Kat, and he says I've got to give Kat the beach house keys. What does that mean? And so I thought, it's Alison's son again. What is he up to? And I said, what beach house? Where? And she said, in Canada. I said, Canada? Like, whereabouts in Canada? And she says, this area in Newfoundland. And I was like, where is that? And I look on this map and I was like, Barbara, it's in the middle of nowhere. And she's like, let me get you some photos. Let me get you some photos. And she sends these photos. She went, now do you want to come? I was like, that looks like a really great place to come, Barbara. That looks like a really great place. It gets even more amazing, Alison, as it unfolds. I contacted my sister to say, you know, I've been invited to do an event in this area of Canada, and I think I'm going to go because the signs and synchronicities are suggesting it would be a great idea to go. And obviously, it's even more poignant today because we're doing Mike's tribute shortly today. It's the 22nd of the 11th, which is our angelic numbers 21, 21, double trouble, Andy. And so we've ended up doing this event in the middle of nowhere, and my sister says to me, you do realize that our family emigrated, some of our family emigrated to Canada, and some of them emigrated to Nova Scotia and some of them to Newfoundland. And I was like, you are joking. So then I get into the pictures and I'm really amazed because my childhood memories of going to the Hebrides in Scotland look identical to going to Newfoundland and the kind of things that you can do there. And so anyway, we're magically making this trip around it, of which Andy, and you're more than welcome to join us if you'd like to, Alison, but we're building this trip. And it's very exciting. There's quite a few of us going. We've got a few places left if anybody wants to come on the second week. First week is full. But it came out of, I wouldn't have had the confidence or the insight to have done it had it not been for your son doing the initial conversation with you about the keys. And I trusted him so much that when Barbara said, Michael shouting, I bought the beach house keys for you, I knew I had to thread the link. And so, you know, who knows what will be revealed when we get there, Alison. But clearly, when Spirit want to direct you, what I'm trying to show to people is the inspired connections not only led you to an amazing experience, they led me to an incredible experience. And now poor Andy's been roped in to join me as well with his partner Joelle. So we get this lovely connection, Alison, and that's what's so exciting when you work with Spirit, is that it touches everything and everyone where there's a loving connection. And I think I've really felt that from your son, that he has entrusted some time with me and he's inspired me to do things and see things differently, which is really, really incredible. But the one thing I kind of want to get across to people that's really amazing, and I know how challenging a difficult house renovation can be, having been through one myself. But resilience and perseverance, Alison, every time you have got over one hurdle, something else happens. So you were recently hit with the hurricanes, is that right?
Right. Yes. Both of my houses in Florida, particularly this particular beach house, because it sustained a storm surge, and 12 inches of a storm surge can knock a person down and kill them. It's not a flood. It threw the washing machine from one end of the garage to the other. They're very serious and deadly. Yeah, the house got destroyed again. We weren't even done with the fire. That the fire renovation was a full house into the AC, everything destroyed. So we weren't even done with that. But it's so interesting. I just remembered this. The first time you came to me, I wanted to die. The second time you came to me was really, really hard. It was right before the holidays, and I had been doing so great since the first time we talked, and then I dipped down. Several things happened. My dog died. I was going into the holidays without my son, and the moms of my grandchildren had pretty much blocked me off from my grandkids, who I'm very close to. And I just was in a funk, and there you come. And I was great again because even though I'm communicating with my son, you do it with such specific evidence. It was more for his dad, Wrigley's spearmint gum. It was, but at the retreat, my son also said, Mom, you got to fire the contractor. Well, I wanted to fire the contractor from the fire, but they ended up being very dishonest and preying on my grief, and I couldn't get out of the contract with them. It was shackles. It was a nightmare. It was beyond a normal home renovation. It was a home renovation that went on for over 2 years, connected to the worst day of my life. And I was dealing with predators, and I couldn't get out of it. It was terrible. Then you popped up between the two hurricanes. What was it? Helene and Milton. It was like right after Helene, the storm surge, and right before Milton. Milton hit this house more. And there you were, you popped up and you picked me. You can only get to 5 or 6 people out of 100. And I have an idea why my son picks you, Kat. Like, you're really the only medium that has talked to my son besides Isabel, well, once. But you you came in and you said, my son picked me, and you said, wow, repairs, major repairs. You knew specifically some pants I had been repairing with my husband. It was a really sweet moment. And then you said, but there are a lot of repairs. And that's when the house had been to the house, you said. And you said, your son's going to be there and help you. It's going to get built back better than ever. I didn't know at that time that my husband and I were probably going to tear it down and rebuild new. And he said it would take about 3 years, which is probably about right. And you knew that we were going to get hit by the eye in this house. Not even the forecasters know. I mean, I'm in Florida native, and those things turn and go every which way. But you
My
said
eye,
my
you mean the eye of
son would be here, and just that I would build back better than ever, and I'm going to be okay. You also knew that I had gone I hike every day, but I had decided to hike the day before Milton was going to hit, and it was eerie, and I felt like eyes were on me. And I got really scared. I heard something and I ran. And you said that my son was laughing because I was out and that something was watching me, and that I got really scared, and that I ran, and that was so true. And then I went on a hike not too long ago, and I know it was, oh, you said I never saw what it was in the bushes watching me and rustling, but he told you it was a young doe, a young female deer. And so recently I was out there on a beautiful sunny day, and this beautiful young doe ran across my path, which is kind of rare. But what is unheard of is she stopped and she just stared at me and my dog. I have a hunting dog that comes with me. And my hunting dog was calm, which is a miracle. This young female deer stopped, and she just stared at me. And I just stayed still until she decided to prance away. So, I mean, these things just unfold and unfold.
Andy's smiling because he knows the connection, don't you, Andy? It's probably why you've got a good reading. It's probably because Josh is there.
Yep.
Yeah. So Andy also has a dear connection with his son Alison. So again, we see how already just in the story, because Andy's not met you, he's listening intently tonight because he hasn't met you before, Alison, and so in terms of already we see spirit trying to weave a connection to Andy as well, which is really, really beautiful as well. Just to sort of explain to people who don't understand what we're talking about when we say the eye of the storm. The eye of the storm is the center of the storm, isn't it? And so forecasters can't predict where it's going to land.
It switches and changes at the last minute, right? I think when you said that, they were forecasting from uh, way south of Sarasota to north of Tampa, somewhere in there. But I've been in Florida where it totally switches and goes somewhere else. And I am in between, but that's a vast area between Fort Myers and North Tampa. That's a vast area, and I am in that section. So
Wow.
yeah, and it hits you once, and then it's still, and then it hits you again. But I've never been scared of those. But the storm surges, those are deadly. I just wanted to say, because of the hurricanes, I was able to fire the contractor, which is what, because I said, we're tearing down the house. We've got to build new and elevated. There's no house. Let me out of this contract? So I got out of the contract, and that, of course, having my son not be here to hug me and talk to me is the hardest thing, but being shackled to that black fire and those people that I didn't want to be involved with, that was such a hard thing. So that was lifted because of the hurricanes.
Which is amazing, isn't it? So out of these really difficult scenarios, some really impressive things happen. And you're in a better place now, Alison? You managing okay?
I'm in a great place. Ever since our first talk, it's been a upward trajectory with some dips, obviously, for anyone that's gone through grief, especially with a child. But yeah, I'm in a great place.
It's amazing. Andy, anything you want to ask, or anything as you've been listening, you've been thinking, wow, gosh, that really resonates with me, or kind of matches my story?
Well, there's a lot that resonates. We actually have a lot in common. When it comes to a contractor defrauding us, we had to sue. We moved from California to Texas. The Texas construction company defrauded us, tried to. I ended up leaning every property he had, and he couldn't sell anything until he paid me. So, yes, we have that in common. But the thing that I really want to focus on is something that you said early on. You said you talk to your son all the time and you feel crazy. That is a tool that I don't think gets enough voice because, yeah, I did the same thing and I felt like I was crazy. But I just had an experience, was it yesterday or the day before, where I hadn't talked to Josh in a long time. I mean, I'll say, hey, good morning, good night. I do that every day. And how are you doing? It's the same kind of questions. And then I finally got tired of myself asking the same question because I wasn't really getting an answer because it wasn't a real question. You know what I mean? And so I just started telling him about my day and all the crazy stuff that's going on and this and that, and just having a conversation with him like he was there physically. And I don't dream very much because since Josh passed, I don't sleep. So I have to take a sleep med. And it's a whole long story, but the sleep med makes it so I don't remember my dreams. And that night, I had a very vivid dream, not of Josh, but I felt very blessed to even remember the dream. And I think that was a gift from Josh. But also, what I noticed, and this ties into some other episodes that we've had, is after those conversations, I would start seeing 916. I'd start seeing the angel numbers. I would start seeing stuff. So it was like Josh was saying, okay, yeah, that's what you need to do. You might not hear me yet, but just keep talking. So I've done that. And my mom called yesterday, or actually texted me. My dad has dementia and he's not in great shape. And yesterday, he fell out of bed. My mom didn't hear it. He laid on the floor the whole night. It was not great. And Josh, I say taps, right? It's like we get these impressions, we get these feelings, these knowings, whatever. I got this tap, and Josh put into my head, get him a baby monitor. That way, my mom, because they sleep in separate bedrooms, my mom could see him and she could hear him. And that's what we had for Josh. It wasn't a video monitor. They didn't have them then, but they had the audio monitors. And it was funny because in that tap, it was information to share to help my mom, but it was this beautiful, sweet memory that at the time I didn't think was sweet because, for 4 years I had that baby monitor, like, buzzing in my ear. But it was, that it was a different connection. It was a memory of something that I hadn't experienced in 20 some odd years. So yeah, going back, long story short, talking to your kid is very important. Do it all the time. It doesn't matter what people say. They'll think you're crazy, and we probably are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very early on through some of my yoga friends and yoga where I did yoga training, they had suggested journaling to my son at sunrise when I got on my yoga mat, journaling to my son, and then he would journal back, and that was very profound. And then I felt like he was talking to me. I saw him when I was awake once, and I saw him waking up right after sleep once. But especially when I saw him when I was awake, I just felt like I was going crazy, but I kind of knew it was real, but I doubted. And what I needed was the evidence that Kat gave me these, specific things, and then I took a chance and I would meditate and I would ask for a specific thing, and then I would get it. And I don't need that anymore, but I really needed, for me, I needed that evidence so much. And now I just talk to him, and I don't, this might sound a little bit harsh. This is a mind game that works for me. I know I could never let my son down or hurt someone in spirit. I know that. But in life, I never would let my son down. Like, I would always. You said that too. You laughed the first time, Kat, when we talked, and you said, "I'm very sorry to say this, but your son is saying that you're kind of henpecked." Like, you would literally polish his boots for him, and I have polished his boots. Like, so I was that kind of mom. And so I say to myself, if I doubt my son and these signs and this conversation, I'm slamming the door on my son. I am rejecting my son, and I cannot reject my son or hurt my son in any way. And so that has made it very solid for me that I just accept it, because I'm
Yeah.
embracing my son. I'm loving my son. I won't reject him.
That's beautiful.
That,
And there's something, sorry, Andy, there's something that you've said that just, the fact that you appreciated the signs and you reacted to them, you responded to them, and even though you had self doubt, you acknowledged them was really powerful, because that helped him build more energy and to keep going and sustaining that connection. Because some people say, I want those signs as well. Why am I not getting them? Please just acknowledge them or recognize them, because just imagine if you were constantly doing something for somebody in life and they kept ignoring it, and you might keep showing up, but eventually you start to lose energy or that motivation, because they're like, you're like, oh, they're not noticing what I'm doing. Whereas you acknowledged it, and then it really turned up the volume on your signs. And what I love about what you're saying is it's changed and evolved for you. You don't need them as regularly now. It's not that you love him any less or that he's there any less. It's just that you're comfortable with the fact that we have a new relationship. I know he's here and he'll pop in and interject when I need him, which he has always done so far, which is really, really valuable. And when you're saying I just pop up, what we mean is I do free demonstrations from time to time, and you just happen to be pushed in my direction at those moments. So it's a free service that your son has been utilizing in order to get you the messages you need, which is really, really profound, with obviously the exception of the retreat, which you opted to join. Andy, what were you going to say, my darling?
oh, again, I mean, we connect so much. We have a lot that resonates with me with what she said. I think it's very important for our listeners who are maybe on the fence to understand something. We spend most of our adult lives skeptics, right? We don't believe, if I can't see it, I don't believe it, that kind of stuff. Um, what I have found in my walk is the moment that I started to appreciate the effort that my son was going through. I don't know, but it must be very difficult. If it wasn't difficult, it would happen all the time to everyone. It would be loud and clear and all that. So it isn't. So it must be difficult to some extent. And for me not to appreciate the effort is kind of like what you were saying, Kat. It does, I think, help our vibrations. It helps the connection. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe Allison or Kat. You can experience it for yourself. That's the great thing about this journey is everybody's journey is different, but it's your journey, and you can embrace the feathers or the butterflies or the very specific signs, the coins, the angel numbers, whatever it might be. But those inspired connections are there for you. They're a gift for you. Nobody else is going to get them the way you do. So if you don't appreciate it, you're not upsetting spirit, I'm sure, but I think you're robbing yourself of maybe a little bit of joy in what can be a horrible nightmare. So that's all I wanted to say. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk.
Absolutely, Andy. I am filled with joy, and my joy comes from my connection with my son. That is my greatest joy. And it's happening all the time. I could just go on and on and on. It's always happening.
There's a few things that you said there as well. You said about how you had experienced him and you saw him in this as you were coming out of sleep into the waking state. We call that the hypnagogic state. It's a movement, a shift in awareness from sleep into the awakening, and we do it again at night as we go into the hypnopompic. And so what you've got there is the sort of dimensional change into your everyday consciousness and awareness. So you've got that little gap. That's a time when a lot of people say that they experience their loved ones or they can hear them and feel them. Sometimes when I have a really important reading, all of readings are important, but say for instance there's a trauma and spirit need to get me some specific details for somebody it is a real traumatizing situation, they might wake me half an hour before I normally wake, and let me drift back to sleep in a very light state of sleep to do a bit of lucid dreaming, and give me the information that I need for a reading. And so I also get a lot of information in that in between state. And you can get really good quality levels of lucidity that feel realer than life. You know, the hairs stand up on your hands. You feel they're hot and cold. You can feel some real. It really does feel like you're in your more realer than real in some ways. So that's a beautiful connection that you've got, and he's interjected right at the right time in order to get you the information that you need, which is beautiful. Lovely connection that you have, and what an incredible journey. But what amazing resilience as well, Alison, of like constantly being hit and pushed down and hit and pushed down and getting up, and you're here smiling, you've got joy. It's 2 years
I
into
know, because before we talk about me, can I just say one more thing about my son?
the
It's just this theme with him. Like you said, he was circling my house during Hurricane Milton, and he's helping me with the beach house. And the two times I saw him, the first time I couldn't sleep. I didn't want to live. I hadn't found Helping Parents Heal, and he just came to me, and it was a feel. I felt horrible. I didn't want to live, and he came to me, and I saw his beautiful face, and it gave me a feeling of peace and support. He's like a helper. And then the other time when I saw him again, just his beautiful face, like in my face, I was getting a surgery, and I was so bereft. And I told it was a minor skin cancer surgery in like Florida. You get those everywhere. I said, I'm not crying because of the little minor surgery. I'm upset because my son passed, and anyone that's lost a child, I'm sure we're all the same. Any stress is so hard. Any stress, you can't take any stress that first year or so. And my son was like in my face, just like, it's okay, mama. And that was him. He had taken me to the hospital right before he passed and stayed with me. And like, that's his personality. So there's always this theme and this feeling of like, he's taking care of me, and he's my support and my guardian. So, sorry, I just,
No, that's lovely.
yes, I'm very resilient.
There's quite a few people have said that, Andy. It's not just the connection or the seeing or the knowing, it's the feeling
The
that comes with
feeling.
it.
It did not come from me. I was in those two moments, I was in a horrible place mentally and emotionally. And then I see his beautiful face and he's telling me it's okay, Mama. And then I just feel this wonderful peace.
Wow. Wow, that's beautiful. I think that's quite a nice place to end it on, Alison, unless there's anything else you'd like to share. What a lovely story. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.